Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So the resolution we have before us today is that the media has become too powerful. We outside opposition strongly oppose this resolution for many reasons. To begin my segment, I will be first clashing with the arguments brought up by the first proposition. So the first argument the first proposition brought up was that the media is infringing upon people's privacy. And one example they brought was about a politician who is now fighting for her life because of something that aired on the news. So if that politician is doing something we believe that everyone has a moral obligation to do what is right. If that politician was doing what is right, she wouldn't fear what the public has to see of her. So if everyone was doing what is right, and they feel that they are not living and they are keeping any bad thoughts to themselves, then they wouldn't have to go through these sort of situations. So we feel that privacy isn't very good of an example to be brought up by side proposition. So the second argument was that the media makes us live in fear. So the truth of the matter is that the media is not doing this. However, they are supplying us with information, which is what I'll get into later on. So the example they brought up was the war between Palestine and the Israelis. So this war has gone on for decades and it has to be stopped. So many organizations like the Palestinian Relief Fund are trying to help better the situation. How would they be able to do this if they weren't open-minded to the surroundings, to the world around them? They would have to be able to get a hold of information about the situation that is in Palestine. So if there was no media in order to supply that information to them, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing now, which is saving thousands of people's lives. So the third argument brought up by the first proposition speaker is about stereotypes. They said that society is trying to copy what they see on TV, what they see in magazines. However, we believe on side opposition that people are basically intelligent, that people are able to make intelligent decisions and help judge people's characters in the right way. So we believe that this doesn't promote stereotypes, however, it does just supply simply it supplies entertainment. So we believe that all these arguments brought up by the first proposition speaker have no right to serve in society. So moving on with the opposition case, we find that the media has two basic reasons of existence. One is to supply information, and the second one is to provide entertainment to people. So the first argument is a logical and personal one. So no force on this earth can change your worldview. A person is their own worldview. They are what they believe, how they react to things, what they actually do. So no force on this earth can change that. The media cannot have that great of an influence in order to change that, let alone change the worldviews of society. So one example of the worldviews not being able to be changed is in Ontario. Ontario recently introduced a new bill saying that people cannot use handheld devices such as cell phones while driving. However, it is a social norm in Ontario to be allowed to use cell phones while people are driving. So this law is very hard to be implemented because people are still breaking that law. So this just shows how a worldview cannot be changed because people are basically intelligent and won't copy everything they see from TV. So moving on with my second argument being a human rights one. So one of the main purposes of the media is to provide entertainment, like I said recently. There are TV shows, movies, magazines that all provide the same kind of entertainment for people. So people have a right to this entertainment because they are not learning from this, they are not becoming stereotypical. However, they are just simply being entertained and they have a right to that entertainment. So this just goes back to one of the arguments brought up by the first proposition, saying that it is implementing stereotypes on people. However, we see clearly on side proposition that it is not being able to do that. However, it is fulfilling one of its goals, which is to provide entertainment. So my third argument being that another human rights one. One of the purposes of media being to provide information to society rather than control them, like side proposition seems to believe. So people have a right to be informed of what is happening in the world around them. They have a right to make intelligent guesses based on what they see on news networks and what they read in newspapers. So how can people have a right to be informed of this? The argument that was brought up by the first proposition included the Israeli and Gaza war. So the Israeli-Palestinian war. So between them, they've gone on with a war for decades now. So how would people be able to reach out to them, provide humanitarian aid for the thousands of people that are left homeless, if they aren't able to even find out about the situation and how bad it actually is? So this just shows that the media is fulfilling one of its main purposes, which is to provide information to people. So, to win this debate, we on-site opposition had to prove that the media does not have that great of an influence on society. We have proven that today through the arguments we have that I have brought forward so far, and what I've already refuted with the arguments that the first proposition brought forward. So the arguments brought forward by the proposition that have clearly fallen today were that privacy is being infringed upon by the media, that the media is implementing stereotypes among people, and that it is also striking fear into society. However, we already refuted with this, saying that the media is not powerful enough to do any of these. However, it is fulfilling its main purposes, which are to provide entertainment and to supply people with information. So for these reasons, we on-site opposition beg to oppose.
That would really suck.